All right, we're going to try this again, and I believe that we are live. And I want to say hello to everybody that is joining us today. Uh, this thing just does what it wants to do. All right, it's good to see you all today with this week in supervision. And this week in supervision, we kind of go through different scenarios and situations that people might want to learn from who have groups or who are seeing individuals, they're supervisors and they're supervising social workers that need content and different things like that. But also, we have people who come in that are just trying to strengthen some of their skills in as clinicians, and we share little tips and tricks on that. All right. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. I'm going to keep it a secret this time, but it's a gentleman named Gabor Mate, and I'm probably not pronouncing his name right. He's been on Joe Rogan and some other shows. He's probably got about 2 million followers. I'm just being introduced to him. I was introduced to him by a friend of mine named Joey, and this dude is really deep. And I'm going to be following him and just learning because the way he processes is the way that I process. He deals a lot with the unconscious, and bringing out things that your typical therapist just doesn't know how to do. He works well with trauma. Anyway, we're going to show a little bit of clip about from some of the things that he had to say. But we just in summary, we started off supervision with reviewing some of the ASWB information relative to tests and test questions, understanding the different stems of a question and how it may involve maybe the two kinds of questions, like the direct questions versus the incomplete questions and the incomplete statements. And we went over a few test questions, such as like, which of the following drugs are often used as street drugs to support individuals who are having issues with staying awake? And we had hallucinogens, stimulants, depressants, hypnotics, and the answer was stimulants. But then we talked a little bit about um, what type of drugs people might be using in order to stay awake, and how these many people use street medications to for different things. So if I'm overwhelmed and tired, I might use something to go to sleep. And then if I need to get up, I might use something to get up, and then how Ritalin how it's used differently between children and adults, and hypnotics and what are hypnotics for. And as a matter of fact, we talked a little bit about the Greek for hypnotics and where that came from. And it just happened to be that the Greek for hypnotics, the word comes from the root or something like that, hypnos, which essentially was a Greek god of sleep and the personification of sleep itself. But anyway, let's get on into what I want to talk to you about today. But just before we do that, before I forget, because I'll be mad, before I forget, let's check this out here. We do have a few things, and we're just going to spend about 30 seconds presenting this. Oh, here we go. We have got a supervisor training coming up on March 25th and 26th. We've got a supervisor training. We want you to register for that. If you plan to be a supervisor, this again is a good opportunity to start if you haven't begun your private practice with in a way to where you can be independent and start reaping the benefits of private practice with being able to take third party payments for yourself. And this was how I started. Also, we haven't released the DSM training yet. We're going to have one, I believe, in April is the date, but we're still getting the everything ready. So we'll be putting that out on your newsletter, which will be coming out in a couple of days. So stay tuned on that. But if you're looking for a self-paced, this is a self-paced that you can do the and basically our self-paced program for the DSM is a recording of a previous DSM training, which was awesome. We had some awesome speakers with Dr. Jennifer Ritchie and Amanda Harmon. It was awesome. And then we've got a free training. Well, it's not free, it's $10, but some of us get a discount for that. And this is coming up on March 19th on Tuesday, life coaching for social workers, empowerment and self-care. And let me tell you, these I just had my sister, she did the last one that we got into, and she was so powerful. And so if you're all not coming out to these trainings, you're missing out, and we would love to see you there. But let's go on and get into what we have for today. And so I want you, what I do with my supervisees is just try to challenge them and get them that, like, my supervision is solely focused. I was interviewing with a supervisee today, and I said a lot of mine, we cover some of everything, but if you're not interested in psychotherapy, then because it's psychotherapy focused, you have some people that do macro supervision, micro. Mine is kind of structured like that, and so you get to pick and choose how you do it. And so I present a lot on what we talk about, and I focus here on some of the elements of psychotherapy that I'm learning, that I'm training, that I'm teaching, and that my clients are benefiting from. And so we challenge them to know this themselves. And so I want you to take a look at this. And this is so tight. This is so tight. I hope I can remember my points on this. And I just want you to take it. If you heard of Gabor Mate, I don't know. I probably jacked his name up, but this dude is deep. I'm following him. You need to check him out. All right, so let's just get to it, and let's play this real quick here. Let's start from the beginning if we can, and that's him.
You're one of the people that I reference a lot when I do my group therapy with people, and just one of the biggest things I'll share with them is that what you say is not why the addiction, but why the pain. Yeah. So that's something that we talk.
Hold up, I have to stop right there. Are we following that? Why the addiction? Not why the addiction, but why the pain, because we have to understand, last time I checked, when we look at some of the addictions that are out there, they are actually in the DSM, which means it's a mental health problem. Addictions are a mental health concern. And so we want to look at it that way. Many times we don't look at it that way. I remember having a personal experience with a loved one or something, and they made a mistake, and it was relative to drugs. And I just thought initially, man, that don't make any sense. And it cost them. And then I had to reevaluate myself and say, look, you know what, that is a mistake. Because for one thing, you're being judgmental, and that's stupid. But then also, anytime when we have these kinds of situations, a lot of times there's something deeper that's going on, and we want to be aware of that. So why are you looking at addiction versus the pain? Because that's all that addiction generally is treatment of pain. But we haven't been conditioned, I don't believe, in society, even as therapists, to think that way. Why not the addiction, not why the addiction.
We talk about a lot in groups, but the one thing I wanted to ask you is this, something I notice with every person is just the biggest difference between someone getting better or someone growing out of that trauma cycle. It seems to be like an open-mindedness. You know, like when I'm talking to someone, I can tell if I'm talking to the part of them that's preserving the way that they already see the world, versus when I'm talking to someone who has completely open mind, open slate. Yeah. So I was curious, because also some people diagnose people who aren't open-minded with certain personality disorders, or they might say they're borderline, or they're whatever it might be. So I'm curious, what allows a person to be open-minded versus another?
Well, what's your name?
Now, it's super important as we look, and we want to give credit to the TikToker, Know Thyself, and give attribution for this video that they presented. But it's important that we take a moment to listen to his approach to her concern, because let's just kind of let's paint a picture here. Here it is, a therapist. There's a group. You can't see the group, but she's in front of a pretty nice sized group. And as a therapist, you're supposed to know stuff, right? And so no one wants to feel as though they're stupid or dumb. And so even when you're working with a client, you don't want to put them in a situation as if you're a know-it-all, that they're stupid or dumb for having a question. You want to watch your disposition, your body language, even when you know that you know the answer to their problem. Why? I want you to think about that. Why do you want to have that posture? right? It's for the very reason why she's speaking about what she's speaking on. It's important to have that posture because you don't want your client to begin having resistance. Basically, resistance is means that we could be solving something, but now you kind of built up a wall that's stopping us from having progress because maybe pride, maybe you don't want to look like you're dumb or whatever this and that. You want to create the platform where they feel free. Okay. And so we need to watch the posture of him because she very well could do things different concerning the way that he's approaching her with very direct questions that if she wanted to think that way, she could become embarrassed. But this is not the approach that he uses. Okay. And so we don't want to do that ourselves in therapy. Okay. So let's take a look.
Nikki.
Nikki, you counsel these people? Okay. What I'm ask you is this. When you're working with one of these people that you perceive as not open-minded, what happens for you?
It's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
I think I notice it. Do you know what? So I take note of it.
Okay, you know what happens for you?
What happens for me?
Sorry?
I
How do you feel?
I think I get a little frustrated.
You get frustrated. Okay. No.
It's a good point.
No. If I was in this dialogue with you, but I got frustrated, would you sense that?
Yep.
How would you feel if
Probably shut down.
you'd shut down? Whose mind is not open?
Shit.
Okay.
I feel like I just got jujitsu flipped.
So now this is not to make you wrong naturally. It's just to make you aware of something.
No, you're hitting something.
And let me ask you this question: when was the first time in your life when it was frustrating for you that somebody important just didn't get it?
Wow.
Yeah,
He's going deep there.
this is where it comes from. It's got nothing to do with that.
She didn't know what she was asking.
The client is just triggering something in you. So you work on that. Believe me, you'll meet many more open-minded people all of a sudden.
Thank you.
I love that. He said that she'll meet many more open-minded people. In other words, um, she's meeting them. It's just who that hasn't been open-minded, right? A lot of times this is causing a barrier with our ability to perform psychotherapy. This is something that our supervisors need to be aware of. And so what I asked them too, and they all know it by now is I always ask the question, but I keep refreshing them and ask them, what is the term that describes what you saw that the therapist or what she described that she had experienced with her client? And there's probably a number of terms that describe that, but the probably most popular one is through Sigmund Freud, and that's countertransference. In other words, countertransference is when we somewhat develop defenses in a sense, or we start to more so have issues that get in the way of therapy with our client. They may trigger us and remind us of previous experiences that we had similar. That's why it's so important to have things worked out to a reasonable degree before you go into psychotherapy. Okay. Have some things worked out. I can't tell you the many clients that I have talked to who indicate to me that their therapists are bringing their traumas to therapy and it gets in the way of the therapeutic process. So I wanted to say, so one of my supervisors asked a great question, and she said, should you view all your clients as being open-minded? And that was a really compelling question, a great question to ask. Should you view them as being open-minded? And I wouldn't say that you should view them as being open-minded because if the fact stands that they're not very open-minded and that's facts, then we don't want to part ourselves from the reality that that client actually is not open-minded. Okay. So what should we do? How should we handle the situation and proceed knowing that maybe the client could be not maybe not being open-minded. Of course, we want to do what the video says. We want to reevaluate. Um, for one thing, we want to reevaluate. And let me just read from my notes. Evaluate uh, and to be aware of my response to what I perceive is a lack of open mindedness. So I want to kind of reevaluate and be aware of my response to this individual, to what I perceive as being a lack of open mindedness, because my response is going to be a major piece of how therapy progresses, if it goes in a positive direction or if it goes somewhere else. I hope this has been helpful, y'all. I'm going to probably try to make a transcript of that interaction, because I'm going to bring that technique in and I'm going to be using it. So what I do with these things, sometimes I'll just write it out and then I'm going to use the same thing in scenario situations. If that's something that you desire to have, just don't feel free to DM me. I sometimes may be slow on that, but and I'll do my best to get that to you if you're a part of Social Workers of Alabama, because I can't get it to everybody. If you're not, then you need to join, and just let me know and we'll get that out to you. But I'm gonna let y'all go. I think we're doing not too bad on time. Y'all have a blessed weekend and we'll pick back up next week. All right, take care.